And also Sirach 44, that it talks about that rainbow is around the throne of God. So they put it to them, and then they take it, and now you see it there as a rainbow. Wouldn't be caught with one. Yeah. You don't want to be associated with it. Huh? But think about what you're saying. If I held up 2 pairs of shoes, some classic Jordans, or some Payless egg bottoms, which one you going to take? Right, you're going to take the Jordan. So you will take what's called the God of sports, Nike, the Roman God of victory, versus the egg bottom that got the rainbow. What you think these going to do for you? Make you dumb? I already tried it. Don't work. Right with the egg bottoms too, still don't work. Don't fool yourself. Let's get it. What we at? 1 Corinthians chapter 11, verse 1. Be ye followers of me. What did he say, Theo? What? Be ye followers of me. So Paul's saying, follow after me, but he don't tell you it's a way how you have to follow me. Let's get it. Be ye followers of me, even as I also am of Christ. So Paul said he's a follower of Christ that makes him what? A Christian, so to speak. Christian is mentioned in the Bible 3 times. Once in the book of Acts, a couple other places, but it said they were first called Christ followers at Antioch.
Not Christianity, the religion.
Not Christianity, the doctrine that was picked from that, like somebody picked the book of John because baptism is there and run with a doctrine called baptism. Not like how the Pentecostals pick Acts chapter 2 and run with a doctrine called Pentecost and leave all of the rest of the scriptures out. So y'all, we have to understand that we were not chasing a man-made religion, but we were called followers of Christ. It's not a bad thing to be called a Christian, but it's the body of notes that come behind that, which there's a doctrine called Christianity that says, once Christ died, you have no more sins. They speak of a Trinity. They speak of a rapture.
That's right.
See, that body of notes does not line up with this. So there's 2 versions of Christ followers out there. One has to be an antichrist.
That's right.
That you chase. And one is the original. So you need to find out where we at, just like chasing the 2 Easters. Yes, Easter's mentioned in Acts 12 and 4. That's the Passover. But when you look up Easter, it says Pascal. And it says those were the days of unleavened bread. So which Easter is Paul them doing with unleavened bread? Which Easter, what do you see on that table? Cakes, pies, leavened bread, soda pop, ham, everything, absolutely. So which one Easter are you chasing, y'all? So y'all have to understand Satan is masquerading as an angel of light. So everything he uses as deception, his bootleg will almost look real. Just like any bootleg movie you get, the first thing out of your mouth is what? It looks like an what? An original. Yeah. But we know it ain't because you have to throw it out there. Right. That's how the sale get done, don't it? Yeah. Man, almost like original copy, dog. So you can take 90% of this film because it almost look good. You may just hear one cough in the background. Whoever filmed it in that movie theater. You hear no coughing with the original. Right. You don't see nobody get up and walk by. How do you hear laughing on that? But you get what you pay for. Just like what they pay for is unsound doctrine. They get what they pay for. But this weekend said it costs you not a quarter, not a dime. Come buy bread and milk with no money.
That's right.
That's what the script said. And you can get all this wisdom. We're going to make sure we hit that, y'all. Buying with no money. Let's get it with you, man.
Verse 2, 1 Corinthians 11 and 2.
Yes, sir.
Now praise you, brethren, that ye remember me in all things, and keep the ordinances as I delivered them to you.
So Paul said, how you follow me is I'm going to deliver you ordinances. See how the body of notes always come in? See, you can say Yeshua, you can say Elohim, you can say Yeshaya, you can name all of the titles of Christ and his Father. But until you express that body of notes that's coming out of your mouth, that's the measuring stick we are told to judge by. Not a title, right, but by the measuring stick. Because nowhere in this script it says that you profane my name by pronouncing it wrong or pronouncing it with a J.
That don't make sense.
It says, how did you profane the way of the Lord? Ezekiel 36:16. It said, everywhere you went, you did idol worship.
That's right.
You did sacrifice to false gods. So what do we see that profaning the name of the Lord is? Action. Doing the actions of the devil. Right. And only calling on the name of the Lord that you heard. It's read one of the 300 gods of Egypt.
Lip service.
How we know you ain't talking about him? What's the only way? Next, the doctrine. That's why Christ separated the Pharisees. They had this, but what was their doctrines? Commandments of who? Men. Let's get it. Where we at? Verse 3. Verse 3. But I would have you know that the head of every man is Christ. Who's the head of every man? Christ. Christ is the head of every man. That's right. Ain't no way to twist it. You can't slide Elijah Muhammad in there. You can't slide Benjamin Carter in there. You can't slide David Koresh, Buddha, or nobody. It says every man, not some men. Not just the men down in the basement of the Sirius building. But every man. Let's get it. But I would have you know that the head of every man is Christ. And the head of the woman is the man. And the head of Christ is God. So we got an order here. We got the Father. We got Christ. We got man. And we got woman. That's all. It says follow after these ordinances. If you get new doctrine in there that flip-flop any of these, if you get a doctrine like the Jehovah's Witness that moved Christ over his Father.
That's great.
If you get a doctrine, Joyce Myers, she moves herself over the man.
Yeah, she was just yesterday too.
And this is on the spiritual nature. Jezebel moved up. Right there, Revelation 2:20 speaks of her. You suffer that woman to teach. But I never told you to allow that to go on the spiritual level. Now, when we get down to the carnal level, it's still the same thing. The Father, Christ, man, and woman. If that order changes, it's going to be what we call what? Out of order. Disorder. If your toilet flush
it ain't working,
what's going to happen?
It ain't working.
You got the bubbles and you let loose and then you look back there and then when you flush, you're not expecting that to go the other way. Well, that's what's going to happen when this goes the other way.
That's right.
It's going to be dung and water on the floor. And you're going to have to clean it up. Where we at? Verse 4. 1 Corinthians 11:4. Every man. Some men. Every man. Just a man working at the tire shop. Every man. Right. Praying or prophesying. Having his head covered. Dishonoring his head. So right here we see that every man praying or prophesying. So it's speaking of two topics. Praying. We understand what prayer is. The first thing we have to understand, if we back these scriptures up, Paul is in the synagogue, breaking this off to the church of Corinth. This church was known for all of the Canaanite wickedness. Men having their own fathers' wives, as we read in 1 Corinthians 5. False teachers. False teachers, women teachers over men. And we're going to get into all of that so there's no misunderstanding of a woman who's a prophetess versus a woman teacher. We're going to clear all that up. Can it be a deaconess? You know, can it be a rabbiess? No, y'all, we're going to get all of that clear today. But it lists two things, praying and prophesying. You know what praying is. When you pray in an assembly, and we're going to get to the script that let us know that everything must be for the edifying of the what?
Church.
The church. So Paul's instructions is in the assembly. He's telling you it's got to be right in this setting. It has to be right in this setting so that you can take it back home and get it right in that setting.
That's right.
If you don't, we're going to be out of order. If we're out of order here, what are they going to open up the door for out there? See, but when you know we got to be as right as we can when we come in the assembly, then you're going to take that back home with you. You're going to cut out a lot of that activity back out there. Because now you're saying the light is on. And if the light, if I get caught in the light, I got to be ready to burn.
Yeah, straighten it up a little bit.
Okay. Go ahead, Malcolm. Yeah.
Verse 5. But every woman
Yes, sir.
that prayeth or prophesieth.
Did that change, or is it the same thing for the woman? It's the same thing. Praying and prophesying. It doesn't change. But what's going to change is the order. Go ahead. Of the head.
With her head uncovered. Dishonoreth her head.
So right here, we got a man, if he's covered, praying and prophesying, he disrespects his head, which is Christ. We just read in the verse. Right? So his head covered. So what does that mean? First, we have to get an understanding of the covering. Spiritual first, and then always carnal. It's always spiritual first, because what made man come alive?
The Spirit of God.
And what did it make him then? What was he called?
A living soul.
He was called a living soul, not a living body. He wasn't called living flesh. He was called a living soul because the Spirit ignited the man or the woman that's inside of him, which no man can see, which no man can judge, but Christ. Because he said, that's where I look. Y'all got a problem looking on the outside. You know, everything you do is from the outer cup. That's why I gave you the definition of the Jordans classics or the Payless egg box. If you need shoes on your feet, why does the Jordan matter most? So I can be looked at like Jordan, who's a sinner, or do I be looked at like the common man? Some egg box. You ain't got to explain these. You know what they eat. They got short worms. Let's get what we at.
1 Corinthians 11. 1 Corinthians 11, verse 5. But every woman that prayeth or prophesieth with her head uncovered, dishonoreth her head. For that is even all one, as if she was shameful.
So this is saying her head is her husband or the man. Now let's get this clear now. This is only talking about a spiritual marriage. This is what Paul is talking about. Paul ain't talking about no dilly-dally or none of that. The whole thing is Christ is married to us. Jeremiah 3:14, and then we will be married into the new covenant. It speaks about in Revelation 19 and 20 chapter. The new covenant mentioned in Jeremiah 31:31 and Hebrews 8:8. That covenant still, we are engaged in that covenant. We are getting prepped. The time is grooming us just right. Like Jacob groomed Rachel for 7 years. Worked for her, just sported with her. But no dilly-dally for 7 years. How many of y'all do that? Sporting. Kissed her on the lips every now and then, the book of Jasher speak of. But wasn't no dilly-dally. Wasn't no whispering naughty nothings. Just let me only a portion. I swear I can go all the way. None of that. Just hell no. Yeah, we're gonna go Genesis 1. We're gonna hit that right now, the spiritual covering. First we're gonna hit Isaiah 30, and then we're gonna go to Genesis. And we're gonna see that they were found naked. And what cover that was that they had on, because most people think they were just walking naked in the garden. Just walking around, and all these angels around here, just walking naked, just like a newborn baby. In that mindset concerning sin, like a newborn will run across the room with the pamper. Ain't nobody looking at that like this baby is ready to do some wickedness because he got his pamper off. What you think that baby thinking? I'm about to handle this. Then juiced up on this bottle and now he's ready for the warfare. No. Let's get it.
Well, that's right here, y'all going over the spiritual covering. With Brother Daniel talking about the covering is spiritual first, then physical. So, Isaiah 31 through 3. We got one in Exodus and Genesis as well.
Absolutely.
Just to show what it means by spiritual covering.
And what one is become naked, y'all, because you'll become naked out there.
Yeah.
It's like, and why do you think when people say you get caught short in your dilly-dally, what's the first thing you say? You got the what pulled off of?
The drawers.
You got the drawers snapped off of. Didn't nobody physically come in there and just snatch them off. And the light clicked on, and you weren't supposed to be doing what you was doing. Let's get it.
Isaiah 31.
Yes, sir.
Woe to the rebellious children.
What is woe?
Destruction.
Destruction.
Woe to the rebellious children, saith the Lord, that take counsel, but not of me.
What they doing? Who they taking counsel from me? He say, but not of me. These are rebellious children that's taking other counsel. Right. They have a new head. Let's get it.
And they cover with the covering, but not of my spirit.
See, but of a covering. So what we see this covering is, but not of my spirit. I'm telling you what the covering is. It's His spirit that covers you. Let's get it.
That they may add sin to sin.
See, not only that, now you add sin to sin. You done chosen another God, which is idol worship. All the gods of the nations are idol. And now you promote what they teach you. Because that's what you do.
Your head's covered.
Your head's covered with their doctrine now. You want to mix these? We even got people that carry the same manuscript and say it's tampered with. They are covered by another spirit. The spirit of tomfoolery and past the same. You ask them, show me chapter, verse, and where it's been tampered with. And when you find out that covering has been tampered with, most of them tell you, man, I just heard that from somebody else. So I repeat. Right. It's to repeat it because they hope that you have been blind by the ways of the world. Let's get it.
Verse 2. That walk to go down into Egypt.
What they doing?
That walk to go down into Egypt.
Look, they are going back to Egypt now. We got a book out here. What's that boy name? What boy Luke said?
Great Pagan.
Great Pagan. We call his name Hagen, but we call him Pagan because he teaches. He said we came from Egypt.
Pagonomics.
Egypt has no prophecy. You ask them about where do we end up and how did we start? Nothing.
Chill rock.
Right. Right. You're going to scream on these scriptures, yet you quote them to try to prove a point.
That's all he
In
taught.
one breath you say it was copied from the Babylon or the Book of the Dead of the Egyptians. In the next breath, you point to your crowd. Now, did Jesus say? Amen. You just said Jesus was a liar over here.
That's
now
right.
you saying right here, he's saying the truth. And what the crowd do? That's what happened like seeing. Throw another fish. Let's get it way back.
Verse 2. That walk to go down into Egypt and have not asked at my mouth to strengthen themselves in the strength of Pharaoh.
So they want to strengthen themselves or become knowledgeable in the clay. Not the potter.
Not the pot.
Not the creator. But you want to get knowledgeable in the creature. Not the creator, but the creature. Let's get it.
And to trust in the shadow of Egypt.
To trust in the shadow of Egypt. What do you think the shadow was? If what we're doing is a shadow of things that come before Christ, what we're doing, what do you think that shadow was? It was destruction because that's where you trusting. That's why I start off, whoa, you trusting in destruction. That's your shadow. You saw it.
Not a lick of prophecy.
Not a lick of prophecy. talk this madness about the hieroglyphics. And guess who? And the white man wrote the Bible. Who was the man that cracked the Egyptian?
That's right.
The white man, John Francis, a Frenchman.
Now, why ain't no Egyptian stepped up? I have to crack it.
Exactly.
So you go down King James, you say he was a white man and he did this, but yet you know that the hieroglyphics was cracked by the same descendant of Esau. If you say King James was Esau, but we got all the writings up here who King James was and what he looked like. Right there. King James was a brother. An Israelite. Let's get it. Verse 3.
Therefore shall the strength of Pharaoh be your shame. Your shame.
That's how you're going to be left on Front Street. On your shame for your God. You ain't going to be able to answer. Next thing you're going to do is just start sheepishly trying to agree, or we'll never see you again. And when we do see you at the Home Depot, at the shop and save, you're going to be cutting eyes. Why? Because you scared, we're going to ask you some questions. What's up with the shadow of the beach? Always there. Now, brothers are pumping that same stuff. Heritage. Rosterod restored, part 2. This is about a boy pumping this same shadow of Egypt. Now, look what he got right here. You shall hear the truth, and the truth shall make you free.
That don't make sense.
This whole book is about this book being no book.
That's ridiculous.
Yet you gonna quote his writing to prove your book.
That's ridiculous.
Y'all see the deception in that? The tomfoolery of that.
That's major
And he
deception.
wanted $2 in a ball for this.
No.
I go around for tomfoolery. I'll use it as a teaching tool. But y'all ain't never seen me crack it open.
No.
It's a teaching tool just to show you the deception. Where have y'all ever seen this writing pointing to this? And as the five writings of Pharaoh say, the 360 God, thou shalt bow. That ain't in here. It don't never point to this. I ain't never seen that yet. Point to any other creator.
It ain't
Because it ain't no other.
It ain't no prophecy in Egypt. Like
That's
what?
right.
Name an Egyptian prophet.
That's right.
And what prophecy did he write down that ever come to pass?
That's right. What Buddha make any prophecy?
Nope.
Buddha was trying to find understanding his own self. Buddha was trying to find understanding his own self.
These words
The
are
founder
so
of
neat.
the Watchtower of the Jehovah's Witness, Charles Taze Russell, said Christ came back in 1914. Y'all seen any of that? He changed it 3 times. Not only that, he was a 33rd degree Mason.
That's right.
Look at where he's buried at. He's buried under a Masonic headstone. When you reach the 30th degree in Freemasonry, you have to acknowledge that Lucifer is God.
That's right.
He's 33. Now, how is he going to spread the gospel but to change and get a new cover? He has a new cover. It's called Lucifer. He agreed to that when he reached the 30th degree. Read the writings of Albert Pike in a book called The Instruction, page 225. We tell you this, all the grand sovereign journey. When you reach 30th degree, you got to bring Lucifer into this. Now, all the ones 29 and down, just what we call that collateral damage. Yeah, they'll donate to Children's Hospital. Yeah, they'll pay on your gas bill. But as you get deeper into this, like you have to, when we first started off in that 1 Peter 3, as you grow in grace, when you grow in that covering, you're going to have to acknowledge who the boss is in that doctrine.
Goat ride.
Why you think all the rituals in secret? King Solomon was a black man, riding the goat, whispering, handshake. Right. What's the big secret? What's the secret? Right. And why would you mention something to them, they say, well, you must have read that somewhere. Well, tell me if I'm telling a lie about it. I can't talk to you. How you part of this when it say be of no fellowship fellowship with daughter.
That's
that
right.
don't mean you can't be around if your uncle is a Mason. But fellowship means to come into assembly with, to break bread with. You can't be part of that. Everybody, we got somebody in our family that's hooked up with something. Somebody been in college, they think they're Greek. Let's move on. Where we at?
Verse 2, this last verse, verse 3. Therefore shall the strength of Pharaoh be your shame.
So the strength of Pharaoh, how far did his strength go? To the Red Sea.
Bottom of the Red Sea.
That's where his strength is at. At the bottom of the Red Sea. That's all you got coming. Drowning in your doctrine and in your cover. Let's get it.
And the trust in the shadow of Egypt, your confusion.
Your confusion. That's why you're confused. All we ask is a simple question. If you saying Egyptology was the first civilization, was it before Adam? Before Adam, let me think about that. Before Adam was before Noah. I'm going to Ham. Egyptian came from Ham, son of Mizraim. Well, see, bro. So what you're saying, the first civilization on earth started 3,000 years ago. Versus what we're reading, when we say Christ and his genealogy, and 14 generations from David, and David 14 generations from Abraham, and Abraham 14 generations from Adam. When you start counting that up, and that say 4,000 to 6,000 years, then you know there's a different understanding going on here. It's superseding Egypt. Let's get it. Where we at now? That's it for that. That's it for that. Let's get that Genesis chapter 2, verse 18.
I'll show y'all right now. Exodus 32.
We're going to hit that too now.